Hello and welcome to Bread of Life, a daily devotional program which each week features a different area pastor. Our speaker for this week is Pastor Adam Soderberg of Hartford.
So, a minister, a priest, and a rabbi walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "What? Is this a joke? Get it?" This week on the Bread of Life, we are discovering what I believe is evidence of God's sense of humor, proof that Christians can laugh and have fun. Yesterday we left Paul, who, after fleeing Ephesus, was joined by several other missionaries and arrived in Troas, a city in Turkey on the Aegean shore, 10 miles south of the ancient site of Troy, the scene of the Trojan War, immortalized by the poet Homer. Then, beginning in verse 7 of Acts 20, we read, "On the first day of the week, we gathered with the local believers to share in the Lord's Supper. Paul was preaching to them, and since he was leaving the next day, he kept talking until midnight. The upstairs room where we met was lighted with many flickering lamps. As Paul spoke on and on, a young man named Eutychus, sitting on the windowsill, became very drowsy. Finally, he fell sound asleep and dropped 3 stories to his death below. Paul went down, bent over him, and took him into his arms. 'Don't worry,' he said, 'he's alive.' Then they all went back upstairs, shared in the Lord's Supper, and ate together. Paul continued talking until dawn, and then he left. Meanwhile, the young man was taken home unhurt, and everyone was greatly relieved." Thank God, huh? Can you imagine? What would Eutychus's death certificate have listed for a cause of death? Apparently, it was another case of death by preaching. Look, I know there are those at South Church who feel on Sunday mornings as if they've just eaten their Thanksgiving turkey and the tryptophan is starting to kick in, but so far I haven't killed anyone with my preaching. And I readily admit this is actually one of my favorite Bible stories, not so much because of any deep theological meaning or lesson to be learned, but because doesn't it seem like the Bible is always so serious? This is funny. Come on. Paul drones on so long that Eutychus fell asleep and then fell out the window. I'm sorry, but that's funny. And it shows me that God isn't always so incessantly stern. I believe he has a sense of humor. Not just because of this one story, there are others. Like, how about when Elijah challenges the prophets of Baal? In 1 Kings chapter 18, when Elijah challenges the prophets of Baal, he says to King Ahab, yes, that's his real name, "Summon all Israel to join me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who were supported by Jezebel." So Ahab summoned all the people of Israel and the prophets to Mount Carmel. Then Elijah stood in front of them and said, "How much longer will you waver, hobbling between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him." But the people were completely silent. I know, so far, this doesn't sound all that funny, but it will. Elijah, in my opinion, goes on to zing the prophets of Baal pretty good. But we've run out of time today, so you'll just have to meet me here again tomorrow for the rest of the story on the Bread of Life, WIHS 104.9 FM. I'm Pastor Adam Soderberg of South Congregational Church, Main Street in Hartford. God bless and have a great day.
You've been listening to Pastor Adam Soderberg of Hartford, our speaker for this week on Bread of Life, a program to encourage you from God's Word.